Hello, welcome to the Comic Book Club. I am your host, Jamil Payne, and with me is my co-host, Amanda Comey. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing pretty good.
So today is our final week 4 of Watchmen month, and today we are discussing the TV show, the HBO series TV show.
Yeah, we are.
But before we do, Amanda, we talked about Doomsday Clock last week, and there's one thing I want to bring up.
Okay.
About Doomsday Clock. So at the end of that, comic, when they say what everybody is doing right, Ozymandias is locked up, right?
Yeah.
But then there's an Asian girl.
Yep.
That's outside his jail cell with Bubastis, whatever the damn cat name is.
Yes.
I don't think it's the same Asian girl. Is it? I don't think it is.
I think that the idea that... So in the comic, we're just jumping right in. In the comic, the original Watchmen comic, we saw that Ozymandias Veidt at his South Pole Karnak temple building facility, that he had some specifically Vietnamese servants.
Right.
So the notion that he could either have still out at large in the world Vietnamese servants or children or other allies, I think is not like a stretch. I think that's like a really natural thing to add into a follow-up story. So I don't know if in the TV series, if Lady True was specifically supposed to be the same character.
I don't think so.
Or if they just agreed that that was a good idea.
Yeah. Or it could be a coincidence, but I did find that odd. Because I think he even says she grows up and buys his company, like in the comic or something like that.
I thought it was really odd to throw that in at the end of the Doomsday Clock comic because it was like, why?
Right.
I mean, so much of that whole series was like, why? But it was like, why? Like, did you think you were going to get another Doomsday Clock book? Like, you obviously didn't even want to write this one. So what are you doing introducing new characters at the last minute?
And, like, I'm going to tell you, this book came out, I shit you not, maybe 3 days before the show premiered.
Oh, wow.
Or 3 days after, one or the other. Like, but they was like, basically this comic ended and the show started.
Okay.
And it's weird to have like that same concept in both of them. It almost made me think that it's on purpose. Now we're dealing with two different universes because in that universe he's locked up. You know what I'm saying? But and like in this show he's something else. We're gonna get into. But I just thought it was weird that they both had this almost exact like concept in it.
I mean, I think, like I said, I think that that's just kind of like a natural thing to observe when you're looking for places to add to the story, to say like, you know, quite conspicuously in the original comic, those characters were non-characters.
Yeah.
And to go back and say, they probably were actually thinking stuff, I think is like a really great, I think that's actually a really great place to add to the story.
I guess we should get into it. Today we are talking the HBO series Watchmen. It premiered October 20th of 2019 and ended December 15th of 2019. It consists of 9 episodes. Its executive producer and creator is Damon Lindelof, right? And it stars Regina King, Don Johnson, Tim Blake Nelson, Yahya Abdul Mateen II, I think I said that right, Andrew Howard, Jacob Mean Tent, Tom Mason, Sarah Vickers, I'm reading all of them, Lou Gossett Jr., Jeremy Irons, Gene Smart, and Hung Chow. So, Amanda.
Yeah.
What do you think of the HBO series Watchmen?
For the most part, I really, really loved this.
Right.
I think that the only reason I wouldn't call this like the most perfect show ever is that I feel like, and this is really a really funny way to say this, I feel like the ending was a little too comic booky.
Yes.
I feel like this book did a very good job of being sort of like more than a comic book story in the way that the original Watchmen was. And then it got to the last episode and was just like, and now it's going to end like a Marvel comic. And I was just kind of like, oh. And I also personally had my own theory going into the ending. So obviously I was going to be disappointed that this story the TV show told wasn't the one I imagined.
Right. Right.
So which also means this is a very strong candidate for if I rewatched it, I might like it even more.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's my overall impression, was that it was surprisingly close to perfect.
I would say that this might be almost as great or just as great as the actual book itself. That's a very high bar, but this show to me is a masterpiece. It's simple.
All right, show's over.
I just look, man. There's okay. So I want to say this show was about 9 months ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda. I think I've talked about that on the show. I know I have, about how like performative wokeness can be. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times white people who create stuff and want black people to like it, or just any minority group, they go overboard. That is not this show. They quote unquote have all the wokeness that I would usually hate, but they do it in a way because it's such a well-crafted story that it didn't bother me, because like it felt appropriate and real to this real. It didn't feel over preachy. It was just something that was there.
I almost want to compare it to how the rape was used in the original book, which is to say,
I don't mean to laugh at rape. I'm not. Yeah.
Which is to say that it was an uncomfortable subject, but it was so integral to the actual story that it was given the right amount of time, and
right.
that the story wouldn't have happened without it.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like the key here, is that it wasn't an afterthought. The entire story was built around the Tulsa massacre and the fallout and like the racial and social consequences of that for like hundreds of years after.
Right. And like, what does that mean overall? Like, what does that try? What type of that type of generational trauma? What does it do to like a people? Right.
Yeah.
And what does it mean when the government decides to make right by it? Right. And what would that do to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're so far removed from it. Like, it's I don't even know where to start at, man. I don't even know what to say, where to start. Like, you can take lead on this one, Amanda.
Okay. I mean, I guess I feel like the easiest way to talk about this is in terms of characters.
Right.
So I think that it may be easiest to start with the characters that came back from the original.
Right.
And then to look at the new characters that were added.
Yes. So who all came back from the original? We have.
So first of all, we have Lori.
Yes.
So she's just terrible and useless again.
You think so? I liked her in this.
I mean, I liked her, but I also still found that she was just kind of like
Man, you are hard on Lori. Man. Oh, no matter what incarnation it is.
But I feel like she's supposed to be that way. She's very real. Anyway, so we have Lori, who's back.
Yeah, she's back all right.
And she now works for the FBI, going after vigilantes.
Yes.
And I guess maybe we should address the status of vigilantes. It's still the original act from the 70s is still in place. They're still not legal.
Right.
But in Tulsa specifically, there was an ordeal with the local, I guess, essentially Klan.
Yep.
And the police department decided that it was safer if the personal identities of all of the staff was secret. So now, despite the fact that vigilantes are not technically legal, in Tulsa, they are required to wear masks, and some of the detectives and officers are just wearing costumes.
With their own, like, superhero name on top of that.
Yes.
So, you know what? I know we want to talk about characters, but I want to
go ahead and take off.
I want to talk about Don Johnson's character.
Okay.
Because I'm going to tell you, from my point of view, right?
So he was the chief of police, right?
Yes, he's the chief of police.
In Tulsa. So he was the guy who was like, okay, I guess we have to wear masks now.
Right, and like everybody loved him, right? Black, white, it didn't matter, right? Everybody loved him. And then later we find out not only does he has a Klan robe in his closet, right? But
Mm-hmm.
he's actually part of the white supremacist group and an overall, like, conspiracy to put white men back on top. Why this resonates with me so much is because it took me an episode or two to like reconcile that with the Don Johnson I seen in this show. Cause the Don Johnson when he's alive is very likable. Number one, it's like I don't know why it's crazy to me to know that Don Johnson can actually act like really like he's a really because like when I think of Don Johnson I always think of like Miami Vice and like those cheesy like songs he had, right? But I'm sure he done other things. I know he probably has, and I just haven't been paying attention, right? But when you meet him, he's like go get him. He does that crazy shit in the owl ship. He has dinner with Angela and them. You know what I'm saying? So like it took me an episode to like reconcile the fact that he was a bad person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, underneath all that, he was a bad person. And the reason, like I said, that resonate is I feel that way a lot about a lot of my a lot about like my media heroes growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I used to love Mel Gibson. Love Mel Gibson movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find out Mel Gibson is a scummy ass dude who told his wife, I hope you get raped by a pack of niggas. And like, it took me a while to reconcile that about Mel Gibson. You know what I'm saying? Because like Mel Gibson is somebody I grew up with all through my life. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with like Hogan or like even, I don't know, R. Kelly. I ain't never liked R. Kelly that much, but a lot of people have, right? And R. Kelly is a damn child molester. But it took a lot of people. Bill Cosby is another one, right? It's like these people from your childhood that you seen, right? These people that you thought you knew and that you've grown to love and had this positive impact on your life turn out to be scumbags. And you got to reconcile that within yourself. Some people don't, and they still defend these people. Like, there's still people that believe NBC put Bill Cosby in jail because he tried to buy them. Like, some people still believe that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's hard for them to reconcile Heathcliff Huxtable with the fact that he's a rapist. You know what I'm saying? That Mr. Huxtable, America's dad, is a rapist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, I found that very deep. I think it was intentional. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, Angela doesn't find out till the and like she even tries to lie for him in the beginning because that's somebody she was close to.
Well, and I mean, No, I mean it's surprisingly relatable recently because, you know, in your daily life, you kind of assume everyone you know is like cool, and you don't explicitly have conversations about like, hey, so do you have robes in your closet? And you can function for a really, really long time before you find out what someone believes about uh, racial extremism, I guess.
Well, anything, right? You don't have to be women, like,
But yeah, exactly. So it's just that sort of blindsided feeling is so real. Just just recently, just like I'm just thinking about like all of the people that I've known recently where I've been kind of completely blindsided by what they really believe, and yeah, and like you said, it's not just racial justice, it's also things like finding out which of my friends refuses to wear a mask, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
who the ones that believe in weird conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the ones who, yeah, exactly, the ones who think that they're going to put microchips in our vaccines. I'm like, what? And yeah, it really does sort of, I think what it does is, I call it the Jurassic Park phenomenon. Stay with me here.
Okay.
So, you know how in Jurassic Park they said that they filled in the gaps in the dino DNA
Mm-hmm.
with amphibious DNA?
Right.
Okay, so when you are dealing with someone else, you don't know everything about them. But because you're getting along with them and you're friends, you fill in the gaps with yourself.
Yes.
So you, until you know otherwise, assume that your friends believe the same things as you. And that's why it hurts even more, is because you've filled in their missing identity with your own identity.
Right.
And then you find out that it's not. And so for a second, it's like looking into a mirror and seeing like your face, but backwards.
Yeah. I just thought that I just wanted to touch on it because it's something that's touched on, and I guess it's kind of important, but it's something that get brushed away pretty quickly. You know what I'm saying? But I thought for me that was like one of the more powerful things in the show, in my opinion, was the fact that like, oh, this person that we liked, you know, not only is he like part of a racist conspiracy, he actually the one who set up all the police officers getting shot in the first place for them to wear masks. So he helped orchestrate the whole thing. So it's just not that he's racist, you know what I'm saying? It's just not like, you know, maybe he could learn from his mistakes, or he could have if he was alive. No, he was pretty implicit in all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he ends up being by far the real villain of the series.
Yes.
The other plausible villains are
what, the senator,
Lady True, maybe Vite.
Maybe.
But they're you look at them and you think they're villains, but they don't rip your heart out.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Right. So, like I said, you want to go like, yeah. So, Lori is in this, and unlike you, I think she's pretty as effective at her job. Like, she can see through everybody's bullshit pretty clearly. She even convinces, what's his name? The mirror mask guy.
Oh, Looking Glass?
Looking Glass, thank you. Mirror Glass, what the fuck? But, yeah. To help her in her investigation, right? So, you know, I think she's, well, you know, there also the giant, the giant blue, vibrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you laugh at that part, Amanda?
I laughed at that part.
Yeah. Like this, the thing about that is, and yes, I'm going to dwell on it, it wasn't just big, it was comically large.
Mm-hmm.
Not just long, but like 10 inches thick, and I'm just like, Oof. I was like, I don't know what the hell they was doing in their time, but Christ. But yeah, so we have her as an FBI agent. Apparently, Night Owl is still locked up. Apparently, right? And we have Ozymandias, Adrian Veidt.
Yep.
So, what do you think of Adrian in this story, Amanda?
I absolutely loved him until the end.
And why is that?
Because I feel like they do such a good job of showing that he is the smartest man in the world.
Yes.
And then at the end, he kind of is just like comic book smart. Like at the end, he ends up just being sort of like Iron Man level clever.
Right.
And also, I want to say that I feel like his motivations towards the end seem to be almost a little bit petty.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was very much more. He was very like personally motivated, and I feel like something that was really compelling about him in the original Watchmen book, and then at the more also like towards the beginning of the series was sort of his detachment.
Right.
So him getting like petty and then merely clever at the end wasn't as much fun as seeing him like brilliant and like calculating.
Being even smarter than Dr. Manhattan sometimes.
Yeah, he the whole storyline with him trapped on Europa was bizarre and like so weird in a way, in the way that things like that's what happens when you leave white people alone too long, is they come up with like weird shit like that.
Right.
And that story of him being stuck on Europa with this like weird steampunk technology and like the clones that he keeps making and killing and like just that whole like aesthetic is great as a side story or like a single music video or something, but that as a whole series would not work.
Right.
It's just too everything.
But that's why like they use it sparingly within the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so go ahead.
Oh no, I think that was really well done. Is they came up with this really fun, really fucking bizarre idea, and then they said, "Let's not overdo it."
Right. So, like, before we move on in this plot, right? Was it weird watching this after seeing the movie?
I mean, I had kind of already forgotten about the movie.
Wow. Okay.
I just let myself not think about it as much as I could.
But like, look. I know we both lukewarm on that movie, but I think that movie gets a lot right.
Yeah.
In hindsight, because like a lot of the aesthetics in that movie is in this, and like they pulling from the same thing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking to myself, if they could change the ending of the movie, this show could definitely be a sequel to the movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of people treat it as that, except for, you know, the whole giant squid part. But
Right.
like, it's just funny to me that just how like they want to do something completely different, but I feel like they still kind of close. Only somebody more competent made this version of it. You know what I'm saying? But like they still pretty close in tone and like aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So are those the only two characters that come back?
Well, okay, so first of all, I think it's conspicuous who we don't see, which is they don't talk about Night Owl.
Right.
And like
Well,
Laurie talks about,
they mentioned him once.
they meant, yeah, I think they mentioned that he designed the owl ships that they use.
And there was, and on the center was like, I can get your owl friend out of jail or something like that. If she played ball or something.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that she kept talking about her ex and like absolutely nobody thought it was Night Owl.
Poor Dan.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting that he was like conspicuously out.
Right.
The other Minutemen appear sort of in flashbacks and in the story within the story.
Right.
And then also in spirit, Rorschach is there.
Yes, very good and bad spirit, right? Because
Yes.
Looking Glass is clearly a play on Rorschach, but also the white supremacists in this book, I mean, in this show, take inspiration from Rorschach.
Yes, I mean, part of that is that they're using his journal, which wasn't widely distributed compared to Doomsday Clock. They're using his journal as sort of like proof of the conspiracy theory that they believe in.
Right.
Which ends up being true.
Yeah, yeah.
That Veidt is behind the squid attacks and like that none of that is real. So yeah, they sort of take him as inspiration. What did you think the first time you saw like the Rorschach masks? Like
I kind of figured what it was, because like we even talked about this. Well, like Rorschach is a character that I like and most people like, but I said like reading that in 2020, he reads a whole lot different, right? So somebody that far right and that crazy would absolutely inspire this type of white supremacy, like a white supremacy group of some sort. Even though Rorschach himself wasn't necessarily racist, you know what I'm saying? He was a lot of other things, but racist wasn't one of them per se. But it wouldn't matter, right? It was somebody with those type of rantings and that far right leaning. You know what I'm saying? Will always inspire nut jobs.
Yeah, I thought it was really insightful, and I liked that they split Rorschach in two. That was the first thing you said. So they had a character inspired by Rorschach.
Right.
And then they also showed like, hey, like Rorschach fanboys are not a good thing.
Yes.
So they simultaneously honored the character, but also showed the dark side of the character. And I think that was like really kind of brilliantly done.
Unlike the comic, was just kind of shits on the character. The Doomsday Clock comic, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I just Look at what do you think of Looking Glass since we're talking about characters?
I really, really loved him, and one of the things that I loved about his character was, and I think we talked about this already a little bit offline, was that I had to keep reminding myself that you can have a Southern accent and be really, really smart.
Right.
Because he has a really thick drawl, but he's really smart, and just every now and then there would be a line or a response or like a specific vocabulary, and I would just go, Amanda, like, what is wrong with you? Like, of course people from the South can be smart. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And just the way he kind of defied so many expectations, I absolutely loved. So again, that thing about like filling in the missing gaps of like the identity of a character or another person, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this Looking Glass character is teaching me things about myself. Like I'm seeing I'm seeing myself reflected in him through my own assumptions about his character.
Okay. Cool. Oh,
That's a lot.
Yeah, that is. I wasn't expecting that type of. I was just gonna say, oh, he's cool. I ain't expect I was gonna get wow. Okay, cool. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I really liked him too. I really like that he's like really like sardonic. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing like
so
really
so dry the humor.
Like desert dry.
Yeah.
I am disappointed, and this goes back to the last episode in general, where like a lot of characters just didn't have a lot to do, including him, which is actually a shame. Let me ask you another legal implication, right? So they was going to take Ozymandias to jail for killing 3 million people, right? Isn't Laura technically accessory to those murders?
Yep.
But that's not really touched on, is it?
No. And she doesn't seem that worried about it either. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Because that was the thing, right? They were damning themselves, right? And Rorschach couldn't do that. Like, that was a big part of the book, wasn't it? That Rorschach couldn't damn himself to live with that. Okay, so I was just wondering.
You cannot hide this, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I thought that it was weird that she wasn't worried about it. But you know what? If they're not going to address it, I guess I'm not either. But I do find that really odd that. Because, like taking him in would expose her also. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so the other kind of character from Watchmen who came back, Hooded Justice.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
Yeah.
Everything about that was great. Again, I don't think that was what Alan Moore intended. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like, the comedian killed Hooded Justice like years later. I think that was implied in the comic.
Yeah.
But I like this, so I'm not going to complain too much.
I loved it.
Right.
I know that, we're talking from the first episode. I want to say like every 5 minutes I was going back and forth about whether Will was Hooded Justice or not.
Yeah.
And once, I think the thing that like really sold it for me was his granddaughter Angela, who's Sister Night. She added the black face paint around her eyes.
Right.
Which, I thought was really cool, but I realized I was like, so in addition to that making like her costume with like the hood look a little bit cooler, I was like, it also makes it like a little bit harder to recognize her and like maybe a little bit harder to know exactly how black she is if you were trying to like pick her out later.
Right.
And as soon as I saw the black paint, I was like, oh, if that was white paint, then Hooded Justice could have been a black man.
And like it plays with expectations, right? Because like
Oh yeah.
Because like in the comic, it implied that he's a German strongman, and we know he had a rope around his neck and the hood, and it's very much like white supremacy and KKK imagery, right? Like it's very much that on purpose for Hooded Justice, right? So when you find out that it's funny when you find out that he's black.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was there any? I'm expecting that you were that you maybe chuckled or fast forwarded through a few other revelations about Hooded Justice.
Because
okay. From the comic, it was implied. So in the original Watchmen comic, we get kind of a story about the Silhouette.
Right.
Who was outed as a lesbian and like thrown out of the group and then killed pretty quickly afterwards without their protection.
Yes.
And I think it's in the first Silk Spectre, one of her interviews, that's like back matter. I think she says something about like, oh, well, we knew there were gay men in the group, but like they weren't out and people didn't really know. And I thought it was kind of hypocritical that like we had to like formally denounce Silhouette as being a lesbian, but like we didn't do anything to the boys.
Right.
So I think in the original, it was kind of implied that like some guys were hooking up.
Yes.
And that maybe the first Silk Spectre was a little bit of like a beard for Hooded Justice.
Yes.
That they were always together to sort of like compensate for whatever rumors were going on.
Yes.
You're just like, yes, Amanda. Okay.
So here's my problem with this. I want to make this clear. It's not a problem. I have no problem with gay characters. It means nothing within this story, so why have it? That what bothered me more than anything else. It's the only complaint I have. It's not that Will is gay, right?
Right.
It's the fact that that's never reconciled with, right? In a show that takes its time with everything else and explore every other aspect of humanity, right? You could take that scene out of that episode, which is by far maybe the best episode of the whole show. You know what I'm saying? It might be the best. You could take that scene out, right? And nothing changes.
I think that's a really fair criticism.
Like, nothing changes. Absolutely nothing. Like, we don't see Will being gay. We don't see Will struggling with that. And then he has sex with Captain Metropolis. Then I wouldn't have an issue with it. We don't see the effect that has on his wife. You know what I'm saying? It just happens. And she leaves him for a whole nother reason, right?
Yeah.
So not only is he like a closeted man, a closeted gay or bisexual man, right? He's a scumbag for cheating on his wife. And it's never reconciled with. It's just there. There's nothing that comes of it. It's just there to be there. And I have an issue with that. And like, I'm gonna tell you something. Within the black community, right? You know, there's a lot of homophobia everywhere, right? But there's this thing called the down low, which is like because black men are so scared to be seen as weak that they get married, have children, but are secretly gay, right? So for black women, this is a real scary thing because there's because they marry these men. You know what I'm saying? People get married and they have this whole secret gay life, and they could bring home a disease and shit, right? That's a real thing within the that's a real thing with any community, right? But that's a real thing in the black. That's especially a real deep like there's been articles about it in like, you know what I'm saying? And the fact that they don't even deal with that bothers me. Like, it just bothers me. Why have it if you wasn't going to explore it? And that's when I get into the whole, that just put in there to be woke for woke's sakes. Unlike the rest of the show, which I have no problem with. And, you know, I think we talked about this, you know, when they have a black character got to represent every damn oppressed group that they possibly can.
Right.
And, like, the show was made by a white man, which is fine. Damon Lindelof did a good job, right? But, like, I find that white creators always want to make black people like being black and oppressed isn't just enough for white people. Like, this happened with Lando Calrissian. We talked about that, right? Like, when Solo was about to come out, he's pansexual. Like, why is he pansexual all of a sudden? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you wouldn't say that about Luke. You wouldn't say that about Han. And like for like I said, Billy D. Williams for a black woman of a certain age is the epitome of masculinity. You know what I'm saying? Of heterosexual masculinity. He was a heartthrob. He was a teen idol. He was on women. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how they played him. So and again, you throw it out in the interview. It's nothing you could. There's no signs of that in the damn movie. You know what I'm saying? So who are you really placating to? You know what I'm saying? Am I making sense, or do I sound like a hateful mongrel?
You're mostly making sense. No, I really, I absolutely would not have thought about how homophobia in the black community would lead to like this particular relationship having more consequence for like a black family. Like I hadn't thought about that. So like I absolutely agree with you. Like they could have just taken that scene out and it wouldn't have changed anything. And if they were going to leave it in and like really be woke about it, they needed to address it differently.
I will say this though, it does come back and bite him in the ass. And late in that episode, I was like, that's what you get for having sex with that white man. It wasn't that he was gay, just like, hey, that's what you get for having sex with that white person. But just, that's what you get for having sex with that white man. Look at that, you don't play yourself. You don't cheat on your wife, and now you.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You don't cheat on your wife. Now he thought this white man was gonna help you beat up these other white people, and look at you. Cause that look on his face on the phone, I've had that look on my face when I know I don't play myself with a woman. Like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like, but it does bring up an interesting point though about white saviors, right? About white saviors and how much trust black people should put in white people to save them.
Yeah.
Cause we'll put a lot of stock into Captain Metropolis, and ultimately it let him down, right?
Yep, and them being lovers didn't even help.
Yeah, exactly. Like nothing helped. Like he just wasn't gonna do it. The only thing he wanted Will to do was come back so they could have more sex.
Yeah.
And like it's hard because like look, I do this show with a white person. Man, I didn't know if you know this, but you're white, right?
Yeah, super white actually.
And like you're like one of my best friends that I have. You know what I'm saying? Don't you start. Don't do that. I'm trying to make a point here. We are not going to do this. But you know what I'm saying? But like it would, like even I do it, right? I put a lot of faith in you because I know you quote unquote an ally, even though I hate that word. But like it does goes to show you how, like, no offense, putting your faith in white people can be treacherous in the long run. Because if you don't have white people accountable and you just expect them to do right, 7 times maybe out of 10 they may not.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a lot of sometimes doing the right thing involves doing something that's not like it involves you being slightly uncomfortable or you sacrificing something yourself. And like if you don't have people reminding you what the right thing is, it's very easy to not do it.
Right. And like I don't think
without like malice intended. It's just like, oh, like unless you have a constant reminder, you're always just going to do the thing that's easiest for yourself.
Right. And like I don't think Captain Metropolis was racist or nothing, but clearly he didn't want to rock the boat because what benefit would that have for him rocking the boat or the power structure that has put him in the place that he's in?
Right, especially if he could maintain the status quo and get laid on the side.
Right, exactly.
Like, why not try that?
Yeah.
And then that worked out for him. Why would he do it differently?
Exactly. So that ending, I'm gonna tell you something. I was reading an article about that episode at the end, right? And it was in Entertainment Weekly, right? They had a black dude and a white dude who was talking about that episode. And like the white dude, I forgot, it was a white editor. I can't think of his name, but like he said something that I laughed at. He was like, "Well, you know, it shows you that episode shows you violence beget violence, and maybe Will shouldn't have went in there and killed all those people because all it did was bring darkness into his life." And I'm like, "Isn't that just like a white person to be like, maybe he shouldn't have killed the white people that was doing him actual harm?" Because in my eyes, Amanda, he had every right to shoot every white person in there. And he should have. So, like, this idea that he shouldn't have because violence beget violence, I don't really buy. Especially since we seen that there was actually had, like, technology to make black people riot against each other. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to murder those people. There's no other way to end that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We talked about this episode way too long, but that was a really good episode. No, we haven't talked about the main character. Angela,
no, we haven't.
Angela
because
Ebar.
she's the new one. We were talking about all of the characters that were based on old ones. She's the new one.
Right. She's
actually, we're conspicuous. We're forgetting about another guy, but go ahead.
Yeah, we are. But he's coming. Angela Ebar.
Yeah.
Sister Knight. What do you think of
I really liked her.
Me too.
I mean, she's super likable. She's a protagonist, but she also has such an interesting background.
Yes.
And like almost like Disney princess level of tragedy. Like I just want to throw her up there. Like we got Ariel, we got Belle, and now we have Angela, Sister Knight.
Yeah.
But she takes that and is just, she adopts her partner's kids after he's killed.
Yeah.
And is just like, now I'm an awesome mom too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I would say that like maybe one of the biggest parts of escapism in the whole series is just like how awesome she is.
So I love the two, but I'm gonna have to talk about the acting, and like I'm probably gonna get killed for this. I love Regina King. I've been watching Regina King since 227. You remember 227, Amanda? You used to watch that little known black sitcom from the early 90s. I
did not.
It starred Marla Gibbs. The housekeeper from the Jeffersons. It was on like 5. That's where Jack K come from. You know who Jack K is?
I don't think so.
Did you ever watch Sister?
A little bit.
Oh God, never mind. Look,
sorry.
Look, Regina King been black famous. Black famous is different from white famous. White famous is when like the white people finally catch on to you. But there's a level below that that's white fame that's black famous, right? Where like 15 million black people can know you, which doesn't help you. So you can only reach like a certain level of like fame because you're only black famous, right? And that was Regina King until about 5 to 6 years ago when people realized that she's a really awesome actress. Terrence Howard is another one. Terrence Howard was the dirty red nigga in every movie when I was growing up. That was his role. Dirty red nigga. Don't ask me to explain, but that's what he was. So like recently with this push for diversity, Regina King has like gotten her due. She's also the voice of the Boondock characters, Huey and Riley, the brothers.
Oh wow!
Have you ever seen the Boondocks?
Yes.
That's her voice for Huey and Riley. That's her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, but the problem with Regina King in this story is that anytime she has to be mad, I don't quite buy it because she's 5'1" with a really high pitched voice. So anytime she screams and try to look intimidating, I don't necessarily laugh, but I'm just kind of like she pulls off tough really well, right? But when she has to like emote a type of anger, it just like it's hard to explain. But I don't necessarily see her as like super intimidating badass. I know I'm a terrible person. She does great in the role. I'm not saying she doesn't do great. It's just something I know. You just let me dig a deeper hole for myself. Thank you.
No, I mean, I guess it's a little different when you know she could kick your ass.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe I believe her angry a little bit better than you do.
Like anytime she has to scream and shit, I'm just like, that's when she. But like anytime she's like calm or she has to talk, I believe all of that. It just like when it comes to like the actual like badassery parts, I have a bit of a tough time believing that just a little bit, because she's such a dainty woman, and that's not her fault. You know, so some women are just like that. You know what I'm saying? She's great. She's great. She's great.
I thought she seemed pretty badass, but there was definitely a little bit of a playfulness there. She didn't quite get like rageful badass. You know?
Well, again, I think she does better when she's in a Sister Night suit and it's a stunt double. Yeah. So, that helps. But no.
So maybe a little bit of body language?
Yeah, I think that might be it. Maybe it's just like body language that's like the problem. But yeah, so. Yeah, she's great in this. I'm like, she should win something. I'm surprised she didn't. I'm surprised this show probably didn't win a goddamn thing, and it probably should have. Wait a minute, is it even damn Emmy time yet? Or do they even have the Emmys?
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
What the fuck is going on in the world? Help me out, Amanda.
I lost. I mean, it's been a while since I've really like put any credit into the awards shows or really cared, but I definitely there's too much other stuff going on. I don't know anymore.
Right. Hold on, I'm looking it up now. I'm looking up awards. It won the American Film Institution for Television Program of the Year. It won for Critics' Choice Television Awards, Best Actress, Regina King.
Good.
Best Supporting Actress, Jean Smart, Laurie. Directors Guild of America. Outstanding Directing for a Drama Series. It looked like it won, maybe. NAACP Image Awards nominated. Weird. It didn't win nothing at the NAACP Image Awards. You'd think it would have won. Riot Guilds of America. It won for Drama Series and New Series. It won the Peabody Award. So I see nothing about Emmys or nominated for Emmys. So maybe it either didn't get nominated or the Emmys didn't have. I don't damn know. Anyway, way too much time about that. So yeah, Regina King is great. I love her to death in this, despite some of my misgivings about like her being like an actual badass. Again, no fault of her own. Look. If I was a director, even though I think she couldn't quite pull it off, I still would cast her. So that's where I'm at. This is gonna come and haunt me in like 5 years when I meet Regina King. Watch. But so there's a lot of characters, but I think we should cut to the chase and talk about the big.
We got one more that I just have a quick thought on.
Okay.
Which is that Lady True is the live action anime villain I've always wanted.
Yes, she is.
She has that exact energy, and that is all we have to say about her.
Yes, she's awesome. So, I guess we got to talk about the BBC in the room.
The big blue.
Oh, it ain't blue in this one. It's we ain't talking about the British Broadcasting Channel either. You gotta talk about Dr. Manhattan, who was in every episode and we just didn't know. When did you figure it out?
I didn't really figure it out until like right before the episode where they explain it to us.
Me neither. It never crossed my mind, and that is awesome because even though they don't set it up, it doesn't seem out the realm of possibility either. Which is
the only thing I can think of that might have been a setup for it was that at multiple times, Laurie comments on
how hot he is. Yes.
and she did at some point like show up unexpectedly, and Angela was like, how did you know that, or how did you, like, what are you doing here? And she said that Cal told her. So I did get like a little bit of like a Laurie Cal connection, and then as soon as we got the Dr. Manhattan thing, I was like, could Laurie tell? But I don't know. I wouldn't give Laurie that much credit.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ. She's smart through the whole series, and you know what? We're gonna have
Maybe I'm just jealous of her. Okay.
what of the giant. Never mind. Look, Amanda, I'll be 36 next week, but it's really hard for me not to make a whole bunch of dick jokes right now, and I'm struggling right now not to make dick jokes.
Okay, so I'll help us.
Okay.
I was really interested to ask you about this because something we've talked about before is how, like non-white, and by that I mean like literally crayon-colored characters sometimes get coded black.
Yes.
And the first time this came up, we were talking about Piccolo.
Yes.
How Green Dad is also Black Dad.
Yes, he is.
So I wanted to ask if like I just wanted to know like if that made this feel like more or less natural to you to have like the blue character.
No, not like. Look, I like the twist, but
Mm-hmm.
I like, well, that's interesting. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but no, as far as it being like a natural thing, no. I mean, I like the twist. I think it fits within the story, but no, because the problem is I've never seen Dr. Manhattan as black in no incarnation. Because I know he's a white dude, and only a white dude would have that type of cold detachment from the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of the point of his whole arc? Is that he felt detached from the world and decided to go back to the world and like live in it as a human and become attached to it again.
As a black man.
Yeah. Because being a white man didn't work.
it didn't, not one bit. No, it did. It did not work. So there's a couple of things about this, right? And I guess this leads into the episode, right? The meet cute episode, which might be the second best episode of the season. And like it gets into like, Angela's backstory and their backstory together. My only other small criticism, right? When they're at the bar talking to each other in Vietnam, right? Dr. Manhattan, who is still blue, who hasn't taken on the identity of a black man, still sounds like a black man. Cause it has to be, how you say it? Yahya. I've never heard this man's name spoken out loud, but Black Manta. Because it has to be him, right? It has to be him. So because
right,
of that,
and they were not showing his face.
They was not showing his face. But at the same time, that voice, he sounds like a black man. And don't give me that shit like, oh, what do black people sound like? I'm black. I know everybody has a bit of an accent. Like I can tell when there's a white person, I can tell when there's a black person or a black adjacent person, right? You know what I'm saying? So the fact that he didn't sound like, I don't know, a white dude was throwing me off a bit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because like he shouldn't sound like how he's going to sound. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Well, and I think I think they tried a little bit because like he changed his voice a little bit when he took the body. And she was like, "Oh, you sound different now." And he's like, "Oh yeah, like my vocal cords change to be stuck in this body or whatever." And she was like, "Oh yeah, I like it." Like he changed it a little bit, but it was clearly the same actor.
And like, it's a small nitpick. It doesn't take away from anything because that episode was great, right? But it's one of the things I thought about. I was like, he's supposed to sound like how he sounded when he was human, just detached. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's weird that you hear his voice coming out of that because I'm a big old nerd and sometimes the details bother me. And that was one of them things was just like, he's not supposed to. But again, it don't detract from anything. It's nothing nobody else would pick up on. It's just something that I picked up on. That he already sounded like a black man before he took the black identity. What do you think of this episode where he goes meet Ozymandias is butt naked? Yeah, Amanda, you know what, Amanda? I'm just going to ask you. Screw it. Because you always make me feel uncomfortable on this show. What do you think of Black Manta's penis?
I mean, we didn't see that much of it. We did see a lot of butt though. Very nice butt. Like if I was impressed with Night Owl's butt, that's no. Um, no, I'm Manhattan booty all the way now.
Manhattan booty. So, did you think it was funny that he knew it was Dr. Manhattan? Right when he walked in, oh, hello, John. He's like, how do you know it's me? Because only you would walk in here naked.
Yeah, I did kind of love the dynamic uh between Vite and Dr. Manhattan. Um, we actually didn't get that much of them together in the original book.
Right.
And they tried to give us a little bit more of that in Doomsday Clock, and it was just kind of, like it was just kind of like Dr. Manhattan telling a story,
Right.
while Vite and hundreds of other people were just standing around. So this, I did really appreciate their banter. Because I mean, it kind of really showed both of their personalities, and it showed how smart and it showed how much they admired each other, I want to say.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I got goosebumps when he goes to Karnak. It's the same thing in, like, when we talked about the Joker. Well, like, the Joker movie is like played completely serious, right? And, like, you know, it's not supposed to be a comic book movie, so you don't get those same feelings that you would get from a comic book movie. But I told you, even with that, when the Joker go visit young Bruce Wayne, I got kind of like a chill, like I got kind of like a fanboy chill, like, ooh, they meeting each other for the first time, like, oh snap. So when Dr. Manhattan goes back to Karnak, it's like, this is where it happened. This is where everything went down. Holy shit. Like it was blowing my mind. Like, of course it takes place there. It makes logical sense, but just to see it, right? Like, this epic, world changing thing happened here. Which they ain't even really talked about a lot, which they ain't brought up a lot, you know, as it is. But to see a setting live and in person that was in the comic book, when you think you wasn't going to see any, like, locations from the comic book,
Yeah.
it gave me kind of goosebumps, I ain't gonna lie. Cause, like, it happened here. Cause I just kept saying it, like, it happened here. This is where everything went down. This is where he crashed through the window. This is where Ozymandias tried to vaporize him. Rorschach got killed right outside that door, right there. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, we're there.
And that's another spot where I think they did a good job of making this plausibly a sequel to the movie.
Right.
Because both of the Karnaks that we saw in live action look so much like the comic book, and it did have like a consistent feel.
Yeah, so yeah, I got fanboy goosebumps in the way I wasn't expecting by seeing him going there. It almost made me wish they kind of would have redid the comic book itself as a miniseries. I think that might have been better.
I mean, I think if anything, this just gives me confidence that that's a thing that they could do.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's an interesting question. I mean, maybe we can talk about the very ending of this and whether you would want more.
No.
More of this. You don't want more.
My answer to any of this is always no.
Okay.
Unless it's planned already, my answer is always no. They wrapped everything up pretty much in a nice tidy bow. I don't need any more. It's like The Last of Us 2, right? Like, a lot of people are angry about The Last of Us 2 because The Last of Us 2 didn't need a sequel. So now I'm talking about video game, but now it has to justify its existence. And, like, I'm halfway through. I'm not for sure if it does or not justify it even being around. So something like Back to the Future, yes, give me more of that. But something like this, I don't need any more. It's perfect just the way it is.
Okay.
But if they did, let's say that they never actually do like a whole retelling of the Watchmen story, right? You know what you could do? When you have Adrian on trial, you can have flashbacks. So you can still kind of get your Watchmen retelling, but just within a new context if he's on trial. You know what I'm saying?
That would be really interesting.
Yes. That would be my only. But like even then, like no, I don't need any more. What about you? Do you think you need any more of this?
No, I definitely don't. And I think it's really funny how we also were kind of sitting there going, but we don't really need more Watchmen. And then we got this and it was great.
All of a sudden.
So I guess maybe I'm more open to the idea than I might ordinarily have been.
Interesting.
Just because I'm like, I didn't like, okay, so I didn't want more Watchmen and we got Doomsday Clock and that was horrible. But then I didn't want more Watchmen and we got this and it was great. So like, who knows? However, I think that these writers are so good that they, you know, they could have made something amazing out of anything.
Right. So is there anything else you want to touch on?
Real quick.
There's a lot in here. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Real quick, I wanted to say that my ending that I was expecting, because we didn't talk about. I mean, we're both really character driven, so that's mostly what we're focused on. But I mean, ultimately, Lady True builds a Millennium Clock.
Right.
So that she can steal Dr. Manhattan's powers. Ooh, how original.
Right.
What I was hoping that her machine would do was I was hoping that she would do a Neon Genesis Evangelion and disrupt everyone's intrinsic field in the entire world. So that there would be like one human super consciousness and that would create world peace because there wouldn't be individuals anymore.
That's some real coming this shit you just came up with, Amanda. I'm just fucking socialist. No, that would have been something, right? Then, cause you know what? I like that theme, right? Because like we're dealing with like far right politics mostly in this show, right? Yeah. It would have been interesting to show like the detriment of far left leaning thinking. You know what I'm saying? Which is like the end of individualism. Like.
Yeah. Well, and it just. I mean, she wanted Dr. Manhattan's powers because then she could just like zap everybody and fix everything. And I don't know. It just seemed. It seemed kind of like an interesting possibility, and it also seemed like if any series was going to pull sort of like a red herring fuck you, like you had no idea what you were expecting, you were looking the other way, like you were looking at the big blue penis, you weren't thinking about what the villain was really up to.
And I guess in that way, I guess that's why that episode is so disappointing, because Watchmen is known for its ending, right? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like it's known for sticking that landing, and to a certain extent, Doomsday Clock does something big in this ending.
Yes.
But this doesn't do anything big. There's no surprises. There's no changes like that we could think of. Maybe Angela has her Dr. Manhattan powers, but we're not for sure.
Right. No, it's the big. It was really the big ending was the meet cute episode where we get the Dr. Manhattan story, and then the last episode was really just denouement.
Right.
And yeah, I was kind of hoping for another squid, you know.
You know, we even talk about that they actually showed the squid in Looking Glass Origin, which I love. He was a Jehovah's Witness. Like, yeah, of course.
Well, and that's maybe the only thing that they took from Doomsday Clock was that Looking Glass was he was in the trauma fallout splash zone of the squid.
Right. And he just so happened to be in the Hall of Mirrors, were protecting him from dying, right?
Yeah.
I think it was funny that, like, of course he has problems with sex, because the first time he ever got, look, could you imagine that poor boy, right? He's super religious, right? This woman tempts him, gets him naked. Did she actually get him the blowjob? I can't remember.
No.
She doesn't get him naked after tempting him from his God to say, fuck you, you fucking weirdo, runs out, and then she dies with millions of other people and you butt naked and your ears are bleeding. Yeah, I would be fucked up too. That's like 5 different type of traumas in one, Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very efficient.
He's just like, of course. Did you like the scene where they burnt the puppy alive because it wasn't quite right? Not like the scene, but like, I found that interesting. Huh? I know. You know, I always say I don't care about animals. As much as I don't care about animals or having pets, I don't like to see animals hurt either. So it was just like, that just bothered me to death. And like, it's funny because it was done so casually, right? And these are the good guys. Well, he's the good guy, you know what I'm saying? But it's done so casually.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that they kind of hinted that he might go with the white supremacists because of who he is, and he just like, no. You thought he was gonna be racist just because he's Southern with that drawl? No, you're wrong. He's completely against this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's it. I think Dr. Manhattan dying leaves a lot to be desired because I don't think it's handled with the weight that it should have been.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about, like, all of this happened right in front of Lori.
Right.
And she's sitting there and she's like she's got to be sitting there going, does he even remember me?
I think they had a moment. Didn't they have a moment? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I don't even think he looked at her.
I know she recognized him. I know she said John. But yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's just a lot there that they could have did. It feels like maybe they needed another episode, in my opinion.
Maybe they just needed my idea for the ending.
Right.
And a couple more episodes.
Right. So
that's okay. Nobody's perfect.
So Amanda, I think we can wrap this up. Would you recommend this show?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let me ask you, Amanda. We've done 4 episodes on this, right? Do you appreciate Watchmen any more than what you did going in?
Yes, I definitely do. I mean, I always intellectually appreciated it. Making myself read through the whole comic book and like really think about it and look at how it's influenced other things definitely has helped. I think that also a lot of the books that I've read with you since the last time I tried to read Watchmen were very clearly influenced by this, and I think that also helps me appreciate it more.
Right. And like I said, not just the book, but like just this world, just how much, just look, it's so rich that you can actually make other good media from it, right? Like, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that, you know, maybe you have a little bit more of an appreciation. So now when people talk about Watchmen, you just won't roll your eyes in the back of your head like you're the Undertaker.
Right.
Right. So, Amanda, do you have any suggestions on what we might be reading?
Oh no.
You know what? It don't even matter. I'm not even gonna say this will be the first time ever that we just don't know what we're gonna read next. We'll figure.
We're both surprisingly busy right now for the world still being half locked down. So I was actually trying to suggest that Jamil give himself a break, and maybe maybe I'll have my husband do an episode with me.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. That would be. Or you could have that Sliders episode that you always want, that you've been planning like behind my back, in front of my back on Twitter for like the last month.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
I've just been watching this like, oh yeah, you're gonna come. I'm like, really? Gonna come on the show? Not that I mind. It's just like, is she ever gonna, like, Ashley mentioned this to me?
I mentioned it to you.
No. You tagged me. Was like, oh, Jamil Payne's gonna kill me. But we've never actually talked about you having a Sliders episode. Again, I don't mind. I pick most of the books anyway. If you want to pick Sliders, that's fine. That's less brain power I gotta use. But I do find it hilarious that you've just been playing this thing. I feel like I haven't been a factor in this at all. I just feel lonely. Look, I like the first season of Sliders. Shit. No one talks to me about Sliders. I remember the Squeaky Gate and how that was the real universe and they left any damn way.
Okay, you've proven yourself worthy. We can do Sliders.
I remember the zombie episode. I remember all that shit because they didn't make penicillin there.
Okay, let me look into there is a way to get I believe there is a way to get a PDF copy of the comic book that Jerry O'Connell wrote.
He wrote a Sliders comic?
Jerry O'Connell wrote one of the Sliders comics.
Are you shitting me?
I am not kidding you.
Wow.
So I'll see if I can figure out from the official fan club how I can find that.
Well, no, if you want to do that by yourself, you can. Hey guys, you may not see me for August. Amanda may have to do a couple episodes by herself. She may have to do and edit those episodes and load them up. I think August is real busy for me. Can you handle that, Amanda? No?
We'll see. We'll talk.
All right. So, Amanda, if they want to talk to us about Dr. Manhattan's BBC, where can they reach us?
We are on Twitter as Comic Book Club 52. You can email us, comicbookclub52@gmail.com. And we are on Facebook as the Comic Book Club.
All right, Amanda, this has been a fun month. And I guess we're signing off. I'm Jamil Payne.
I'm Amanda Comey.
And we are out.